Welcome to Eternal Paradigm. Together, we're uncovering human experience by exploring physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual stories. With me, your host, Ermi Ravel. Welcome to the Creativity series, where we explore creativity as a human experience. Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Eternal Paradigm. I am absolutely pleased and delighted to have you here join me. Before we go on into what's happening in this episode, I just want you to know that I find it very, very, very cringeworthy when I have to hear myself back. No one likes to hear themselves back. In any way, it's like when you take pictures of yourself and then you go through the pictures and then you realize how many of them are actually cringeworthy. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because you should know that hearing me back for me is a process. And just like you go through a process of feeling quite uncomfortable with this, I too go through the same. Obviously, there are varying degrees to how comfortable we feel about all of this. So what happens is people will say to me, "Oh, but you're such a confident speaker and you speak all the time." And yes, I do. I talk a lot, and I speak a lot, but that doesn't mean I like hearing myself back. You know, the challenge with a podcast also is the interaction isn't there. So when I'm actually talking to you guys, I am sitting here and I am visualizing like I'm actually having a coffee with a friend. And that's exactly what I hope you're doing too, as you're out walking, potentially walking the dog, heading out for a walk, driving along in the car, listening. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Absolutely. It's really, really great to have you here. Today is the penultimate episode of the Creativity series. Before I move on to the guest in this episode, I just wanted to bring your attention to a few things, which I'm sure you're already aware of because that's where you guys are at. So today is the day of one of the supermoons, and it's the blood flower supermoon, and it's supposed to be one of the most spectacular moons. When this episode goes out, you may actually be out. However, at the same time, there is a total lunar eclipse taking place on this day, and it's the first total lunar eclipse since January 2019. It's a really significant date. It's a really, really important time when it comes to the moon cycle. The moon has always been a very, very significant part of creativity. So I'm actually really, really grateful to be able to bring this episode to you. Anyone who follows anything to do with human patterning, human behavior, and the cyclical powers that we have as humans will naturally understand the value of the sun and the moon, along with the earth, of course, when it comes to the power of cyclical energy. So as we're here, and I kind of talk to you about this, according to NASA, and I am just doing a quick Google thing here, and it says that the full moon will be just 157 kilometers. Okay, so that's 98 miles closer to the Earth than April's supermoon. So the moon has actually moved. That is really important on one level. And then on another level, we also have the other important thing that's going on that's soon to be coming into play. Yes, and that's Mercury. Mercury is going to be in complete retrograde. That means that Mercury is also going to be moving. You may have heard, whatever it is that you're doing, Mercury moving has significant impact on different things, especially around communications. So this is going to be a very, very interesting kind of shift. So you may potentially be feeling a shift in energy. And if you're into following zodiacs, the horoscopes, the houses, all of that, just a reminder that you may be feeling where you are overwhelmed with challenges and different things that are happening in your life and consumed in the microcosm and creating those grains of sand into a whole bucket of sand that you have to carry around with you. But just remind yourself how incredible you are. You should really know that. You should absolutely know that. Before I head into the episode that we've got happening, I hope you caught up with last week's episode, which was an amazing roundup of the Instagram live conversations I had with the amazing multidisciplinary artist Marissa Hilton and the incredible quantum coach and spiritual mentor Maria Adriana. Those conversations were actually incredibly pivotal in the context of this whole series and actually were really, really important when it comes to the overall message of the podcast. Just a quick reminder for you guys, don't forget, Eternal Paradigm is on Facebook. We have a Facebook page where you can come along, see what's happening, get new episode drops, leave comments. Please feel free to share. You can also head over to the Eternal Paradigm website. More details in all of the show notes. In addition to this, like us, follow us, join the conversation on Instagram, Eternal Paradigm Podcast, all there, always waiting and listening for you to come and join the community. There's also a Facebook group if you want to be more involved. Find us, request to join, get in touch with me. You can contact me directly on Instagram, and there are lots of different things that are happening. Before I give you a quick heads up, actually, I should do this. So the end of the series obviously is next week. Then after that, we have got a series of episodes on their way over to you. After that, I may go on a little break. There might be about four to 6 weeks where new episodes may not be uploaded. However, there will be lots and lots of other things happening. So make sure you watch this space. Details on what's to follow is all coming. As I said, this is still growing. This is my journey as much as it is yours. And I am just so grateful to be able to share it with you. Going to head into the episode for this week. I met this incredible energy. I was introduced to her a few months ago now, by an Eternal Paradigm favorite podcast and podcaster. So the favorite podcast is Gen X Voice, and the podcaster is Trish the Dish. Now, she was in one of the January episodes when we looked at medication. Medication? No, when we looked at meditation. And in the episode, it was amazing to hear Trish's journey, but through Trish, I was introduced to the incredible Jennifer Edouard. Music is her healing modality. This is an incredibly powerful energy. She's here to just be, and it's been so amazing to connect with her. Jennifer is an intuitive receiver, and she has been heroin and opiate free for 8 years, and these things come up as we speak. She had a battle with addiction. In 2012, something really changed, something quite significant happened, and she almost died. As the conversation unfolds, you will hear this incredibly amazing energy. She's just so incredible, and I am so absolutely amazed to have been connected with her, connected to her. As you head into this episode, I want you to enjoy it. But before we head in, just a quick heads up. I spoke to Jennifer in February of this year, actually on the day of the snow moon. In the conversation, you'll hear us making references to the supermoon and what it means to her, to me. So as we kind of head into this episode, guys, keep your feedback, keep your comments, keep your love going. There is a lot in store for you. And with that, enjoy this episode.
Hello, my name is Jennifer. I am currently in Georgia right now. This is where I live. I am a podcaster, a coordinator, a curator, a networker, facilitator, also an intuitive healer as well. I started a podcast called The Haitian American Diaries with my sister Elizabeth. And it's pretty much a podcast where we have in-depth conversations and we talk to different people to tell personal stories about perseverance, life lessons, and also success. I'm a co-founder of Seeds of Sound Music Healing and Arts Festival, which is a platform that bridges together creatives from different communities and encourages people that are struggling with depression, addiction, trauma to utilize the means of creative self-expression as a positive outlet to cope through the hardships that they work on achieving in life. Just pretty much a sense of contentment, self-awareness, and also healing. I manage bands. I'm a supporter of local and independent artists in and around Atlanta and New Jersey as well, which is where I'm originally from. And my 9 to 5, but also a job that is fully within my purpose and aligned with what I do, is I'm a patient coordinator for a massage therapy chiropractic office in Sandy Springs, Georgia. So I work with a lot of healers that help you to find a way to cope and deal with the physical pains that we sort of receive as we get older, or things that are going on within our lives.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question because that's how I roll. Is there anything you don't do?
It's so funny because I'm a jack of so many trades, and I could even go more in depth. And I like the way you said that, because when I was hired for my job, I used to work as a caregiver and certified nurse's assistant for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And I did that for many years. And when I was deciding to shift roles, I submitted my resume, and my bosses said my resume didn't even give a percentage of what I'm able to sort of like do. It just was really, really well worked out. And they're like, all right, let's see, let's give her a try. And then when they had me, they were like, you really didn't tell yourself. You really didn't give that much information. We would have never known. So I do a lot of things. I like to learn. I'm more of the type of person where school wasn't necessarily easy for me. Not saying that it's an easy thing, but at least for the way I move. And so I kind of learn while doing. And so I've just learned to do a lot of things so that I can have the opportunity to give myself a shot and work a job if I don't necessarily have a degree, and maybe they'll just take a chance on me. So
I love that, because you said school wasn't easy, right? And there are so many reasons why it can't be easy. And the fact that you love to learn, combined with the fact that your employer says to you that you haven't even told us a fraction about your capabilities. Where does all of that come from?
my family, my sister and I are first generation Haitian Americans. And so we were sort of really nurtured as children to learn anything that we want. If we showed even an interest in something, we were in it. My sister did ballet. We had music lessons growing up. We played softball. We just dabbled in so many different things. If I showed any sort of like sign that I could be an artist, my mom would get any and all the art supplies that you could imagine and create an entire space for us to do art. And, we had an entire basement that was just like our activity, our playroom. And everyone would love to come over because there was just all the things, all the toys, all the art supplies, all the creative stuff. If we wanted to sew, then here, let's go to a fabric store and here's needle and thread, start sewing. If we wanted to cook, then here, we're going to go food shopping every week. And here's your own pans. And that was just how we were raised. So it's kind of like you can do anything if you really put your mind to it and if you really want to learn. So
that's incredible. Incredible. And how did that level of resourcefulness pan out and help you out in life, especially in difficult situations and circumstances?
I think that it definitely, I feel like everything in life it's all about learning and understanding. And also, you kind of have to really like work through certain things. Like nothing comes easy. And I think my parents being from another country, coming to the United States and really not allowing themselves to be pigeonholed into a category where they can't do, but also, work. It was the thing that you had to do. So it's sort of like living with no excuses and no barriers. So for me, especially like with the things that I've experienced in my life between trauma or even with battling addiction and having to overcome that, I think that it was sort of like instilled in me to kind of, even if it's hard or even if it's difficult, just work your way through it. And, somehow you'll come on the other side.
So can you share a little more about the addiction that you overcame?
So I am currently in March 18th to be precise. I will be celebrating 8 years sober from heroin and opiates. I was an addict for 3 years. I really was dealing with, kind of trying to figure out my way. So we were living in Georgia at the time. We moved back to Jersey and I got really heavily into just the party scene and having fun and experimenting and trying so many things. But in that, I've always also been a very woke person. I guess that's a term that people would say, but I've always tried to see more than what was in front of me. And within those realms, your mind can go in so many different directions. But unfortunately for me, it really sent me to, some would call it a spiritual awakening. Others would say existential crisis. Others would say I just lost my mind. But, I just want to preface, my laughing is not that I find this topic funny whatsoever. It's just sometimes you experience something and you look back and it's just like, wow, like I can't believe that was real life. And that was my real life. And in 2013, I had the mental breakdown to where I'd realized that I wanted to get sober, and I tried my best to do that. But my close friends, people that I loved dearly and still love dearly to this day, they weren't ready to go that route. And I thought that I could do it. And after a while, I recognized it wasn't going to happen. And so in a sort of very cry for help would be really what it was. I kind of disconnected from my body, and I ended up, luckily, I had the support of my family and my sisters. My sister recognized something was happening, and she has a master's in mental health work. So she was able to really catch me right on time before anything else happened. And I was committed for 7 days. And for 3 of those days, I didn't even know my own name. So, once you're sort of put in that, a reality check is what it is, because our imaginations are so vast and so wild. And if you're not grounded, and if you're not really in a place where you can sort of make sense of these dreams or these visions or these downloads, is what some people are saying, and you're not really in a good place mentally and physically, or even living in your purpose, you're just going to feel like a fragment human that is just in many pieces. And in that process, by the time I was done, I left and moved back to Georgia. And I found, my mom actually gave me the secret. And when she gave me the secret, that really sort of, it was good because, especially coming from a Haitian family, a Haitian background, a lot of times they don't want to hear that, you know what I mean? Like you were an addict, or what was wrong? What could be? You had a mother that loved you. You have a father, anything you wanted, I gave it to you. So what possessed you to go into this direction? And I didn't get that at all. I had supportive aunts, supportive cousins, like everyone was just trying to understand it. My sister was really, luckily for her, she was in that field that she really understood it. And I came back with no judgment. And it's like my mom, like, kind of really understood me the best, because she knew there was something, within me that has been different. And it's funny because I remember one time my aunt said to me in the height of my addiction, ever since you were little, we knew you were different. That's why your family treated you the way that they did. And I took it in a negative way. Like I really went spiraling over that. And it wasn't until later I'm like, my parents definitely saw like this eternal, like, healer hippie girl that is so not really seeing what's happening right now and sees beyond, because I've had gifts since as a child and sees beyond. And so they were really trying to like, how do we navigate? How do we raise her so that she could at least communicate with other humans? Because it's clear that she's talking to everything else. But she handed me the secret, and I started learning about manifestation, and I wrote a list of all the things that I wanted. And at that time, I had no license, I had no car, I had no job, I had warrants out for my arrest in New Jersey. I had, all these things, and I just wrote it down. And before I know it, it was like, I got approved for unemployment that I wasn't able to get approved for while I was living in Jersey, which made no sense. And then my sister was working for a nursing home that was just opening up. She got a position as a supervisor, and then she hired me. And then I was able to work there for 5 years and really do a good job. And I got a car, and I slowly started to understand myself and understand like what brought me healing. And music was definitely number one on the list. And also just live music and some form of creativity, which is only now starting to make a little bit more sense.
I love that. The fact that there was support. And I can understand how difficult it is as a first generation child to immigrant parents in this country. And so you said that from when you were a child, your parents realized that you had gifts, that you could see, feel, think in a very different way, almost like expanded. Can you share a little more about that?
Well, I don't know, like I would always kind of say things that were sort of really brazen to not necessarily what's going on. And then after a while, it would sort of like come to fruition in a weird way. Or as a child, I remember when my great grandmother passed away, having a dream of her coming back. And it was so weird because that dream, when I woke up that morning, she was in Haiti at the time. She used to live with us and then she went back to Haiti. And that morning, we had found out that she actually passed away that night. So here she is in another country, and I wake up thinking like she's back and she's home, and she wasn't. She had passed away that night. So, she potentially visited me during that. I think I've always had sort of like dreams, and I tend to talk about them a lot because a lot of times it's just like some time would pass and it would just like come to life. And my parents, it wasn't like it was something that was really talked about because again, when you're Haitian, especially in our culture and American society, they look at Haitians as the number one religion that they believe is voodoo, which is not necessarily true. And what they look at as voodoo is scary and they put a negative connotation towards it when it's a little bit more spiritual and a lot more connected than that. And so it's the same, when you look at witches and the Salem witch trials and the histories within that. So it wasn't necessarily something that we really, I would say, was really nurtured. I will say my dad is a very sort of wise man who is really into philosophy. And so even during the time when I was an addict, he was sending me like Alan Watts lectures and speeches on life. I remember one time I was asking him, I was like, ever since I was little, like the one thing that my dad was like very good at was sharing music. Music was playing at our house 24 hours, 7 days a week. We had records, we had record players, we had big stereos, we had any CD that we wanted to buy. There was this music store called Sam Goody at the time, and we were there almost every other Saturday getting a new CD, and we're listening to Queen and Eric Clapton and Ray Charles and Otis Redding, like all the genres, Spanish music, French music, everything. And so I remember asking him, like, why did you, since I was a kid, like when I was born, there's a picture of my dad holding a radio to my ear, walking around. And he even says, like, when I didn't say words, I started humming tunes when I was a baby. And so I was like, why did you always play music? It just seemed like that was the one thing I remember vividly. And my dad said, music keeps me connected to the unknown. And when he said that, it was just like, whoa, like, yeah, that is so true, because there is no divide in music and you really do connect with, there's no barriers. Like you connect to so many things in lyrics of songs. You hear different stories, you hear different emotions. Like it really does that for you. So if anything that they really did was sort of, as Haitian parents, which is not normal, they still sort of instilled certain things, but they've evolved as the times has changed. They really nurtured our creativity and they really nurtured our means of self-expression. So I think within that, it really helped me to see more and not always just kind of like accept things within life as to what is.
What your dad says is so profound, right?
Yes.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit more. You talked about becoming disconnected from your body during the time of your addiction. And so what is that me? Oh, sorry, we have cats fighting outside.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is the full moon though. So they're on another level.
The full
Yeah.
moon.
My cat was doing parkour last night. So it's a thing. It's a thing.
I forget
when there's another
how
cat, forget it.
they do start, right? So I guess my next question for you will be, at what point did you start to understand that disconnect from your body was happening, and how frequently had it happened before that point when you were basically in a position where you've got blanks in your memory and you couldn't remember your name?
That was probably like the catalyst. That's when everything blew up in a sense. But probably the year prior to that, in 2012, I actually went to a music festival. And during this band Radiohead, which I like, is one of my favorite bands, after their set, I ended up kind of blacking out. There were a series of things that happened that led up to that. But one of the major things was that I was sort of withdrawing at the same time and as well experimenting with other drugs that I wasn't necessarily supposed to. And and I was injured. And so by nursing an injury and dabbling in a situation where this music festival was pretty much the hottest time of the year and you're not drinking enough water, my body kind of gave out on me. And so I was airlifted out of the festival into a hospital about an hour and a half away. And I woke up, it happened on a Friday, and that Saturday morning I woke up I woke up with my eyes open with a breathing tube, feeding tube, catheter, everything that you could think of. And eventually the nurses came in. And I remember the two moments when, from being intubated in the helicopter to when they were trying to wake me up, meaning giving me the shocks so that my body could wake up and trying to get me to open my eyes. I remember that, but I couldn't connect with my body. I couldn't tell my body to wake up. And so they could have stopped, but instead I was intubated. And so when I woke up and my eyes opened and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like in this situation right now. Like that entire experience was like, and it wasn't just like, this was like hours of being separated from myself and trying to find like, where do I go? And, if I were to kind of explain it, it's as if your soul leaving your body. And so that was what it was. And I had a decision to make. Do I go on to the next dimension, world, life, where it's going to be great, but it's going to be another experience and it's going to be just as real as this experience that I'm living now? Or do I return back to my body and try to see where I want to go? And I did that. And I can't say that that moment was just like, okay, let's do it. Like, it's time to go. I mean, by the time I was able to be released from the hospital, it was a Sunday morning. And they said, we're going to take you to a women's shelter. And I was like, nope, I want to go back to Bonnaroo, where I was, the music festival. That's where all my friends are. And they're like, no, I don't think that's wise. And I managed to get some assistance in convincing where they saved up some money and pulled money together and got me a ride back to the festival, which was insanity because simultaneously, my sister, who was living in Georgia, was going to come and pick me up and bring me back to Georgia. But I was living in Jersey at the time, and I just didn't want to go back. And, I'm also still an addict, but I made it back, and I enjoyed the Beach Boys was playing when I got back there, and I enjoyed some music. But at the same time, again, it was, it was very traumatic, and it kind of like your sense of what reality is pretty warped. And I remember thinking that maybe I had actually died, and, God had given me one last chance. And so my last dying wish was to go back to the festival. And then, a year later, the separation happened again, because at this point, I realized I don't want to be an addict anymore. I'd actually told my dad that I was using, and in telling him, I felt like, all right, this is going to kind of hold me accountable. And he told me, he's like, I don't think it's going to work. He's like, if everyone around you is still using, you're not going to be able to, to sustain this. And I'm like, no, of course I can. We're going to go to NA meetings. Like, I'm organized, like we're doing it. We're really confident it's going to happen. And then I realized like, it wasn't like everyone was happy for me, but they weren't taking it upon themselves. And I'm an empath, like, and I'm a highly sensitive person that I can feel what you feel. And I also want to heal. And, and this was before I even knew what healing was, but I connected with people and I helped everyone. I'm like, let's dream big. And when we dream big, we'll all be, dancing in the age of Aquarius together. And then, and it's like, I don't know what that means, but yeah, why don't you do that? We're going to stay and do what we're doing. I'm like, okay. And I realized I wasn't really reaching my highest potential because during that time, I was able to really connect with the music scene in New York and meet some really wonderful people that were doing things and recognizing I want to do this stuff too. So it was really, that was the first kind of like disconnect from my body. And then when it happened again, I recognized, I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to do anything, I can't do it here. It's just not going to happen. And if anyone knows New Jersey, it's a different lifestyle. It's a different sort of, they move very different and it's very quick and it's really hard to catch your breath. And it's really hard to like make plans and write things out and meditate to your fullest potential. Like, you can go on a hike and you could do little things, but when you come back, everyone is always on the move. And moving to Georgia and having this wonderful space to meet other people and meet different communities and also watch change, because at the time living in the South, especially with what's happening now with our culture and the divides, it was slowly changing and it was slowly picking up. So I was really happy to be able to have Georgia as the escape to heal.
You talk about being an empath and holding yourself accountable by telling your dad that you were using. I mean, that's a huge amount of accountability, right? To tell your parents that. So the combination of those things, what I'm kind of seeing is you absolutely recognizing that you're soaking up everyone else's different challenges, right? You've got your own challenges and you've pushed yourself almost like out of your comfort zone and made yourself accountable to your parents. That's a big step. Like, considering everything. I'm intrigued. Just run me through that thought process, what your body was saying, what your soul was saying at that point, what was happening.
At that point, I remember I was really depressed during that time as well. And again, it all stems from being so affected. I can walk into a room and like sense danger before it comes, or I can be in a crowd full of people and realize the vibe isn't for me. And I think at that point, the energy and the air around myself and my friends were starting to be, I couldn't trust them. And I was feeling very fractured. But at the same time, I could remember the people that they were. And I really loved them. But I also was seeing like, I was kind of getting premonitions of like the future. And so it was like really freaking me out. And I remember one day I told my good friend at the time, I was like, I think I want to go back to Georgia. I think I need to leave. And he was like, what? Are you serious? Are you really giving up? Like, are you giving up on our friendship, us? Like, we're a crew, you know? And I was like, I don't think you understand. Like, this is really hard for me. Like, no one wants to be sober. I don't know what to do anymore. Like, I'm really tired. And I just think I need to go back. And he was like, no, like, don't give up. Like, we've got this. We could do this. Give me one more chance. Like, you know, it was just kind of like this. That was the kind of vibe. And I remember going back to my room and I was just crying. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't even think I can be sober anymore. And I probably tried different stints. I think my longest was maybe a month, but around that time I had gotten fired from my job. And it was like life was sort of like telling me, you're done with Jersey. Like, you're done. It's time to leave. You're done. And I wasn't listening. So I was like, you know what? I've always had a really good connection with my dad. Like, that was one thing that never left. Like, I know he knew I was using before I knew I was using, you know, like that's how connected we were. And so I thought to myself, if I do this, and I wrote him an email, like I still have this email to this day, but I wrote him a long email and I gave him all the facts and everything. And I believe he like called me back, just like, it's not going to work. But in my head, I kind of rationalized it. If I tell him, because my dad is probably like the most important human on earth to me. And so my mom too, as well. But like, we just have a really good bond. And so if I tell him, then like, that's going to hold me accountable. It's me trying to figure it out. Like, it was me being as innovative as I can in this very impossible situation because I'm going to meetings. That's not working. I'm trying my best to be sober. But what happened was I was developing OCD. And so because I couldn't really control what was happening around me, like I was an insane clean freak. Like, I mean, it was this serious to where you could come to my house for dinner and like right after you take that last bite, I've already got the plates, cleaning up the kitchen, cleaning up like, it was like, one crumb falls on the floor, I'm vacuuming it. Like, it got that insane to where it was just like, it was hard because I was trying to keep this facade of this person that we were, this group that we were. Like, we were the group where I'm literally hosting yoga at my apartment with like 6 of my closest friends. And, you know, my friend who just became a yoga teacher, like, donations come in, let's receive, let's have game night on Tuesdays and Fridays, let's cook dinner. You know, that was like kind of like what I was trying to do, but we were all not present for it. And so it was hard to see the direction that we were all going and then also see the direction that we weren't reaching at all. You know, by year 3, I was just like, oh my God, if I keep doing this, where am I going to go? And I was getting flashes of like worst case scenarios and this person ODing or me ODing or that, you know, it was just like getting arrested. Like, it was just constant. I couldn't see any light anymore. And so by casting a net, you know, sort of like throwing a lifeline, like ring to my dad and just like, please, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think by telling him, it really sort of gave me a sense of grounding so that when, you know, my brain and my body sort of escaped from itself, it was just like, all right, well, at least, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to be there. And he was there. My dad was there. My mom, my sister, my aunt, my cousins, my grandmother, like everyone was there. My uncles, like everyone was there. Like, they were just like, we got you. Like, we got you. And they definitely gave me life number 4 or 5 back again.
That is so powerful because I don't know what you feel about this, but I do feel that when it comes to our families and key connections, people who we meet in every lifetime, I feel that they're there to serve a purpose for a reason, to teach us and to hold us and to nurture us, ultimately, so we come back to our soul. That's just me and my hippie trippy thinking. What's your take on that, especially when it comes to the support you've had from your family?
I think identity is very important as we sort of grow and navigate on this earth. And I think that if you don't have that sense of an identity with who you are, and that comes with how you're raised, it's everyone's upbringing, whether you're adopted or you're not, like you have to find resolve in your sense of self, because that's how you're able to figure out your purpose and how you grow and get to 30 and 40 and 50 and 60, and the crucial period is that quarter life crisis era, or that transitioning from young adult to adult and more responsibilities are coming to you. And I think that when you don't have sort of healthy relationships in your life as models or support, period, like if you don't have support and you don't have an outlet, it's really, really difficult for you to figure out what comes next for yourself. The Haitian culture has this very strong sense of pride in their history and in their identity. And then just sort of like their, word that it seems to be changing is perseverance, because they've dealt with so much things throughout their lives and their culture in general. And I don't know, it's just like a sense of pride. And I think that for me, being able to connect with them and connect with that, it kind of left me in a place where I was able to be as grounded as possible, feel rooted with my sense of self, and also not feel so lost while I was dibble dabbling in all the things that they never saw for me, because I was the type of girl was like, I didn't drink until I was 18. I didn't even want to even think or talk about marijuana or herbs or any of that stuff. And here I am just like, woohoo, like what is happening? Like, where is she going? And so I just feel like it's really important if you can have a strong foundational support where they don't turn it back against you or make you feel like you can't come to them. Because I feel like when you feel like you have no one to go to, it's really hard to like find your footing and dust yourself off. And if you do, that is another layer of resilience and strength. And there's definitely some sort of drive, but you really have to like have that sense to figure out what is your purpose and what keeps you moving forward.
So on that point, what do you feel that your purpose is now? And can you also shed some light into what kind of tools you use to overcome your addictions?
My purpose is sort of slowly starting to come together, because I have always been a person that likes to bring together community. And I think I had finally found my groove. Our festival was in its third year and we figured out the formula and we figured out the location. In 2019, we had a wonderful, beautiful, magnificent event with healers and comedians and all genre of music and art installations. It was amazing. And that's always something like my purpose is I feel like I like to curate events that bring healing and bring people together using all multimedia forms and giving people a platform to do that. I've also had gifts in Reiki or energy healing. So I'm learning a lot about Reiki right now, and reflexology as well. Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel like you had one more question. What was?
Yeah, I was just asking about, when you were overcoming your addictions.
Oh, how did I do it?
Yeah, how did you do it? And
Yes.
did that open up or kind of give you any clarity on what your purpose could be at that point?
Yes. So when I moved back here and after my mom gave me the secret and I got a job and I started being able to drive and stuff, I've always been a person that, and you talk to any of my friends, like self-improvement is like, I live for it. And so I would give myself these sort of challenges. And so the first thing I did was I was like, I'm going to go and explore Georgia. So I'm going to go on a Georgia hiking tour. And I was just going to different hiking spots in Georgia and enjoying that. And then once I kind of felt like I'd seen what I needed to see, even though I haven't even touched the surface, because the friends I know now have definitely opened me up to like way more, hiking spots in Georgia. It's the best. And I then started to give myself like, all right, I'm going to go on a Georgia venue tour. So all the bands, any band I wanted to see, I was just going to shows by myself and checking that out. So how I was able to get there was when I moved here, I decided to, I started doing yoga. And I will say, to preface, like, I feel like everyone addiction is different, and everyone will reach sobriety on their own terms. And it's all based off of figuring out who you are, understanding who you are. Some people will go the NA route and they'll go to Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, and they like that setting, and that setting works for them. But because I was aware that I'm a person that likes to save people and help people and heal people, so if I go to a situation like that, I'm going to find some way to be a sponsor to someone. I'm going to find some way to like be the one that's hosting these things. And now I'm going to bring in a lot of this energy where I don't think I'm even equipped at this stage in my life to separate myself from their journey and trying to get them sobriety. So I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to meditate every day until like I really get a grapple on this, because at this point it's probably 2 months, 3 months, and I'm starting to chain smoke, and I'm really like, I'm sneaking alcohol. I'm feeling like my body is not feeling secure. Like I'm really trying to understand it, because unfortunately they prescribed me Latuda before I left, and they're saying I had maybe some sort of schizophrenic break. Like it was like, I'm over here questioning my own mental health, and I'm trying to get what comes next. And my family's like, will she need to go to rehab? Like, how are we going to maintain this and contain this? And I will say again, my parents sat me down and they were very candid with me and asked me a lot of questions. And when my mom gave me the book, I have to say, I mean, The Secret, if that could have been like my quote unquote Bible at that time, that's what it was. So it was all about just really paying attention and looking inward and seeing what I needed. And I think my spirituality was just needing something to believe in, and I needed to find a way to believe in myself. And so I did those things, and I started learning about Kundalini. And then I got, I was just going to yoga classes everywhere that were having them. And that was just kind of like, it was kind of like working out or, running or riding a bike and things like that. Just finding activities to make you feel good in your skin. And for me, those activities were just really nurturing my spirituality, really nurturing my sense of self, giving myself these morning rituals, making breakfast, yoga on the deck, going outside, going for a walk, riding my bike. So that was what I was really fixated and focused on. And it was then where for a while I didn't listen to music. I didn't, because I always kind of was scared. I felt like music was what was going to make me relapse again, or somehow I'd find a way to use drugs again. And so in recognizing like, no, the music is healing. Music is beautiful. Music is wonderful. So do that, like listen to it. And at that time, a band Alt J came out with their album that I was like completely obsessed with. And I really dove in, and it just opened the doors to all the things. And then it was like, all right, I can listen to music again. This is good. I was like, now go to shows. And I'm like, all right. And I'm seeing bands like Broken Bells and seeing bands like Beck and seeing like just enjoying all the music that existed. And then before I knew it, a community of other creatives and artists and I were like constantly at the same shows. And all of a sudden I'm a part of the Atlanta and Athens, Georgia music scene, helping to facilitate events, helping to organize music festivals with volunteers, working different production teams and different events that are happening in around Georgia. And then COVID hit. So once COVID hit, it was like, okay, now it's time to reflect. Where am I going and who am I? Because I've been doing this for the last 4 or 5 years, helping all these people, managing all these bands, but like, I feel like something is missing within me. So what's going on here? And I'm like, man, I've been doing a lot for a lot of people, and a lot of times doing it for nothing. And I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I definitely had gifts that were worth my time. And then within that, I just started to, I would like to probably, because of my job, learning about massage therapy, learning about chiropractic, learning about different modalities of healing from other healers and Reiki healers, I started to really do my own personal inner work. And I found myself wanting to be a healer as well. And that's where I'm currently sort of like learning about, is utilizing the gifts that I've naturally have and understanding how sensitive I am to other people and what they're going through and what they're experiencing, but also recognizing like now that I'm no longer able to facilitate these events by bringing people together, because that's technically not allowed right now. So how else can I do that? So I think it's really standing firm, because healing has always been something I want to provide for the world in some way, shape, or form for people that are dealing with trauma, mainly the quarter life crisis up to maybe 30s, and anyone else that feels connected. Older than that, definitely. But I just feel really connected to like that culture of humans on this earth, because I think that's the pivotal time when we're really starting to feel a little bit lost.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff. that's been happening, right? So tell me, where are you at now within yourself spiritually? And do you have any idea of what it looks like for you, the future, so to speak?
Okay, so I would like to tag in something. So I'm currently, like I said, I'm learning a lot about routines. This year was all about exerting boundaries with people I truly care about, but I realized, like, man, I can't disconnect myself from them because I'm so invested in their journey that it's really hard for me to focus on myself, because I'm one of those go, 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 go. And then I'm burnt out. And then I somehow have like a magic button I press and I get some, little bit of energy, and then I use it again on other people and not really on myself. So this year has definitely been implementing all the things that I utilized in last year, which was kind of creating boundaries with myself and my friends. And some of them didn't really like that. And I was very sad by their reaction, but I'm no longer going to put myself second to everyone else, even though I can be someone's oracle or someone's, like great listener, perfect advice person. So I was like, all right, if these are my gifts, I know that I'm able to sort of like anyone that meets me or connects with me, I do something for them. So now how do I really learn more about that? Well, the only way I do that is by learning more about myself. And so recently getting into Reiki, I'm into tarot cards as well, oracle cards. And so I'm very connected to the moon. Like every full moon is where I get that reality check again. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I don't even know what day it is anymore. Like half the time I'm just like, okay, I was like, I think this is Saturday. Okay, sure. But yesterday I actually pulled a card out from this card deck that I got, the Starseed Oracle. And if you don't mind, I think it kind of like really encompassed where I'm at right now. And so I would love to just share and read this card that I pulled. So yesterday I pulled this card called Perspective. And it says at the bottom of it, none of this matters, zoom out, common ground. And again, this is a card by Rebecca Campbell and artwork by Danielle Noel. So Perspective. Take a step back and look at the bigger picture of your life. Step away from the blinkered version and reactive frame of mind of me against them. Change your perspective. Shift your point of view and zoom out, out, out. We are all but a speck of dust in the universe, yet we think everything revolves around us. We see the planet as ours to our own conquer, pillaging the land and setting up ourselves for our eventual extinction. We build fences and walls and create invisible borders. Mother Earth does not need us to survive, but we need her. It's time to wake up. A new perspective is urgently needed. We become so lost in our individual experience that we don't realize that most of the things that keep us awake at night are actually distractions. We're wasting our precious time and resources fighting each other when we should be coming together to heal what's being severed. This moment is a breath in the timeline of your life. This life is a fleeting moment in the tapestry of your soul's experience. Your soul's experience is a flash in the timeline of the unknown universe, and the known universe is a grain of sand in the unknown universe. Take a moment to see the bigger picture, to find common ground, to find deep compassion in your heart, to gain a greater perspective of humanity in this fleeting moment, in the timeline of your soul's existence, in the timeline of all that is, was, and ever will be. And that was kind of like where I'm at right now, is just zooming out a little bit and really trying to see how to embody the things that I've been talking about for so long that I didn't even understand at one point in time. And how do I facilitate spaces for healing in this new world that we're all sort of adapting to?
That was amazing. Thank you so much. I totally get that. Every word, I could connect with it. So it sounds like you're at a point, not so much a crossroads, but just like a realization of a new reality.
1000%. Yes. That is exactly what it is. And it just happened. Like it literally is just happened. Like it's happening right now. Like in this conversation, in this communication, in telling my story, in connecting with people, in accepting my past, because I was tortured. A lot of those things that I expressed, there was a time I could never say it without feeling it or putting myself back to that time or looking at myself, man, I wasted 3 years doing this, or man, I was in love with that person and they didn't love me. I wasted 4 years of my life in that. I was, and just kind of continuously being this victim of my story rather than being an understander and a learner and utilizing my past and as lessons to be this sort of person that I say that I am, because it's all about owning it, understanding it, learning it, growing from it, and not making the same mistakes. So it's like after a while, it was just starting to feel a little bit hard for me to really accept that. And I was really kind of staying stuck in the past or too far in the future and never in the present, never in the present. It was just like, what comes next? What do I got to do? All right, I'm here, there, sleep, wake up, work, eat, maybe, I don't know, go to sleep again, feed my cat. And so now it's just like, okay, let me take a step back a little bit. Let me breathe into it. And I don't want to create chaos and disorder in my life. I'm not trying to cut people out of my life. I'm just recognizing like, man, I should remember who I am and know who I am. And I really need to just see things a little bit different. It's not changing the story. It's accepting it, but also figuring out who I am and walking towards in that direction. And it's been pretty interesting. It's been really great. And again, I go back to the full moon because that is always where I feel like the most connected with myself and the most just feeling really, really good and wise and excited for the life. And I take that moment to visualize and see what I want to do. And then I try my best to stay as present as I can to just implement all those things.
Totally get that. So what I want to say is I like to offer the guests the opportunity to leave a question for the listeners. And you've clearly asked yourself a lot of questions to really understand yourself. So is there a question that you'd like to leave out for the listeners, or anything for them to think about, or anything that you asked yourself during your journey till now that kind of showed you things that you never thought were there?
I don't want to say I have a question. I would always tell people, like, if you're ever struggling with anything in life, whether it's trauma or addiction or just anxiety or discomfort, I always tell people to, find your creative voice and really do the work necessary to help heal you. Maybe you need therapy. Maybe you just need someone to talk to. Maybe you just need to draw. Maybe you need to sing. Maybe you need to write. Maybe you need to meditate. Maybe you need to journal. Like, figure out what it is that you need and try it all. And then you'll find yourself in this world that, oh man, like this really gives me peace of mind. Because if I didn't go to shows just to go to shows, or if I didn't try hiking different trails, I would have never known I like to hike, or I even enjoyed that. And I would have never refound my love for music and found the purpose, because it's all about connecting. And the way that we can connect with each other is finding common interests, but it's also experimenting and not holding yourself inside of a box where you feel like you can't be around people, or you think that you're weird, or you think that you're tortured, or you feel like you're just not able to connect. I think that when we can find our creative voice, it helps us to connect with other people. And sometimes a cool thing happens is that creation, whatever it is, art, singing, music, writing, you tend to sort of heal a little bit, just a little bit of some of the wounds that we're dealing with inside that we haven't necessarily shared with the world or even ourselves. Because we really suppress. We do a really good job of suppressing and just kind of pushing forward. And then years pass and you're like, man, why is this like that? Why do I feel so tortured? It's like we're a little bit scared to put the mirror in front of us and really stare at it. So
you can see me laughing here. Welcome to my life. It's exactly what happened. And it's amazing that you've realized this now, that you've had this shift. This incredible kind of, like you said, whether it's existential crisis, a spiritual awakening, or whatever it is, but it's happened now, which for me is like, amazing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, recently, like the last 2 weeks, I will say this, I felt like I was experiencing another spiritual awakening. And I was like, oh, wow. And I was scared because my existential crisis happened 7 years ago in February. Like, these are the days, like this time last year, I was in the hospital. I mean, not last year, this time 7 years ago, I was in a mental institution. So that really, like, recognizing that, I always would get worried and nervous that maybe it would happen again. But then I realized, like, Jenny, stop it. Like, you're sober. You're not, like, why are you doing this to yourself? And recently during the retrograde shift and while it was going direct, I was like, man, I'm feeling really tired. Like, I don't know what's going on with me. And I was like, all right, my body and my brain is telling me to rest. So just rest. That's it. I'm just going to rest. I'm just going to lay down. I'm going to watch Bridgerton. I'm going to watch this new show. Like, I don't care. I'm going to relax. And in doing so, when it was done, I was like, I feel so energized. I feel so awake. I feel so alive. Look what's happening. And I started doing some research. I'm like, man, I think what I was receiving was actually like a spiritual awakening. But this time, because I was so grounded, it didn't make me disconnect from myself. In fact, it like further affirmed I am exactly where I need to be right now. And I'm doing good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really doing good. There are no distractions. Last year, I had to do the whole boundary thing. That was scary. I really disappointed some friends. But you know what? I'm kind of loving myself lately. And it's like, I leave my house, I look in the mirror, I'm like, damn, like, hey girl, like, how are you? Like, who is this? And so it's just been really great to fall in love with me and love spending time with me and listening to me and learning about me. And by doing that, it's like, wow, because I'm not escaping myself anymore. I'm not running away from my demons. I've seen them. I'm like, hey, what up? You go in that room, leave me alone. We good. And so that's sort of like where it's been. And it's been really great. It's been really, 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 really great. So
I love that. But I just love all of it. So you falling in love with you is just making me fall in love with you. So it's all good. Cool. So tell me, where are you at now with planning events and community events and music festivals? Because obviously things are still the way they are. So where do you see that going, or where is it going?
I mean, right now we're all in the trial and errors, and there are different locations in different places in different states. Every state that you're in is going to have its own rule. I'm in Georgia, so we did our house shift politically, but it's still the South. And so some things aren't as implemented as they are in, say, New York. And so I have chosen to kind of just watch everyone sort of see where they're going. And I think my mind, I just feel like maybe 2022 or maybe like the end of 2021, this would all make sense because we are technically entering a year, March, where it all kind of like started. And there are different applications that are up and out now, like Clubhouse and Stereo. So I've been utilizing those to sort of network with other people that I don't otherwise know that are in different industries or that have the same interests that I'm in. And so I actually have a Clubhouse that I just launched yesterday. I did the trial yesterday where we're going to share the music that we're into and just talk about how it makes us feel. And my sister and I have started our podcast, The Haitian American Diaries, on Stereo. And so we have listeners and people communicate while we're live on the air. So that's been pretty cool. And yeah, so I'm just kind of utilizing these apps that came out due to COVID because, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, but Facebook, I'm starting to like disconnect from it. I only like post music. That's all I do is just share a different song. And Instagram, I tend to dance, and TikTok is where you see the comedian side of me or the goofy side of me or the video editor side of me, just having fun with all that. But Clubhouse and Stereo is kind of like where I'm just trying to find my voice again and use my voice and bring people together so where we can all find commonality within one another and not feel so separated. And yeah, and that's in the now. I'm as present as possible. Like this conversation between you and I is happening. Like, it's like I feel like I was like a toddler learning to walk. And then after a while, I'm like, okay, I can walk. All right, I think I got this. So because I was just hopping on one foot, I was jumping rope, I was riding a bicycle, like I was on a scooter. Like I was just doing all the things. And now I'm like, I feel way more grounded just to like walk forward and just see today and like what needs to be done today. So
thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I mean, definitely check out my podcast, The Haitian American Diaries, on Spotify and all the things, Apple Music, you guys know the spiel. I am on Instagram if you want to follow me. That's always love_music. I'm also on Clubhouse as always love. Our podcast, The Haitian American Diaries, which is just Haitian American Diaries, is also on Instagram. And that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Eternal Paradigm. I'd like to take this opportunity just to remind you that your comments, your feedback, and your listenership is incredibly valued.